Yeah, I'm going to give you two. The first one is Jonathan Williams, who will probably be the first running back picked up off the waiver wire this week. With Marlon Mack out, he figures to be the #1 back for Indianapolis on Thursday Night Football against the Houston Texans. Just keep tabs with the status of Jordan Wilkins, and also Naheem Himes in PPR leagues is worth a look in. Bo Scarborough. Andrew, I didn't think I'd be talking about Bo Scarborough, man. But last week, he led Detroit in snaps and touches and fantasy points in that backfield. He's got the Redskins coming up. They've given up the 7th most fantasy points to running backs. I mean, Detroit's backfield is a mess, and it's really hard to figure it out. But right now, the Alabama product looks like the guy to have. We'll see what happens.
He's like a younger LeGarrette Blount. He's just going to lower his head and go through you. Not that that's necessarily safe, but he's going to, you got my point. Yeah. He's a hard guy to bring down. Those are the running backs. How about the wide receivers?
Yeah, I've got one for you, and that's Deebo Samuel. You look at the numbers over the last couple of weeks, and Deebo has been putting up great numbers for fantasy fans. Looking at his matchup this week, it's not great against Green Bay, but volume could be there, right? Emmanuel Sanders continues to deal with that rib injury. George Kittle continues to be dealing with that knee. So Deebo Samuel probably going to be one of the 3 or 4 most added players off the waiver wire this week on NFL.com.
And tight ends, Fabiano, what do you say?
I've got 2 at a position of need for a lot of fantasy fans. First off, Ryan Griffin, New York Jets. Look at the numbers. 5 targets last week, almost 22 fantasy points. He played 85% of the offensive snaps. He's got Oakland this week. They've allowed the 5th most fantasy points to tight ends, and the Jets have a very favorable schedule down the stretch for that position. And then Jacob Hollister, right? He put up a touchdown the week before Seattle's bye against the 49ers. And this is a good stat right now. In 5 of 10 games for the Seahawks, they've had a tight end score 18-plus fantasy points between Will Dissly and Hollister. And this is a guy who you could pick up and play maybe the rest of the season. And Jacob plays the Cardinals in Fantasy Championship Week, which is Week 16. And if you know anything about fantasy football, you know the Cardinals are just awful against tight ends. That is a great matchup.